Stand by for the CryptoSavvy Podcast. The CryptoSavvy Podcast is intended for educational purposes only. As with all things, do your own research, and let's get started. Greetings and thank you for joining us for episode 1 of the CryptoSavvy Podcast. Today we are covering the basics. We're going to give a definition of cryptocurrency, talk a little bit about blockchain technology and how that works, because blockchain and cryptocurrency are hand in glove. They cannot exist. Well, cryptocurrency can't exist without blockchain. Blockchain can function without cryptocurrency, but we'll get into all of that later. Today we're talking about cryptocurrency, how it works, how it relates to the blockchain, what kind of benefits that brings. Then we're going to establish an account with a crypto exchange and go through a real world example of a simple cryptocurrency transaction. I'll give you the names of a few different tools that I use, and then we'll talk just briefly about mindset of cryptocurrency investing and investing in general. The psychology of investing is something that we should be familiar with to avoid reacting with emotion when we should be reacting with logic. Anyway, we'll get into that toward the end. So let's start with cryptocurrency. What exactly is it? Cryptocurrency basically is a digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation and the transfer of funds. And cryptocurrencies operate independently of central banks. That's one of the big things that attract a lot of people to cryptocurrency, in that it is up to you. There is no central authority determining if, when, and how you spend your funds. That's one of the big benefits of cryptocurrency. On the other hand of that is that you are responsible. There is no central authority that is going to bail you out. If you make a mistake, send your funds to a aberrant address that you didn't intend, there are no takebacks in cryptocurrency. You need to know what you're doing and have a real zero tolerance for mistakes. Be kind to yourself, be forgiving, but don't let yourself off the hook. It requires paying attention and being responsible for your actions. So enough about that. More about cryptocurrency. Basically, cryptocurrency has been around for about 10 years. It started in 2009, really, with Bitcoin. And from there, Bitcoin has developed from being a very low value kind of cryptocurrency to really taking a incredible lead in the crypto space, not only from a name recognition standpoint, but value. Bitcoin outmatches all of its competition by a long way. So about 10 years ago, there was Bitcoin, and that was pretty much it. Today, we have over 76 to 7,700 different cryptocurrencies that are listed on exchanges. A lot of those projects, most in fact, are in beta stage. They're looking for fundraising, looking for seed money to move their project forward. So be diligent about what projects that you select, as some are a little more mature than others. And as with anything, there are a few bad actors out there looking to take advantage of unsavvy investors. So listen, learn, let's make good decisions together and not fall for traps. Don't fall for imitations, and let's make good decisions from a standpoint of stable knowledge. So let's build our definition of cryptocurrency. It's a digital asset. It has really no intrinsic value. Bitcoin has value because we say it does, because we agree as a group that that is the going rate. One of the things about cryptocurrency that I find particularly fascinating is that it is a true representation of capitalism, in that the digital asset itself has no value. And other than living on a digital ledger, it doesn't exist. That's one of the things a lot of people have problems with, is that cryptocurrency is not a tangible that you can hold. There's no such thing as a bag full of Bitcoin. And that causes a lot of particularly older investors to shy away from cryptocurrency. And I think that's a mistake. In the same way that most of us never touch our money, we go to work, are paid via either direct deposit or maybe by a check, but we're not given all of our currency to then take to a bank, take home, bury in the yard, do whatever. Most of us don't touch our money. We touch small portions of it at a time. So look at cryptocurrency in the same kind of way. Basically, it's just following the same ledger system, credits and debits, that have been followed for financial transactions for hundreds of years. Don't let that fear be a stopping point for you. Back to cryptocurrency. So basically, there again is no intrinsic value. It doesn't have any physical form, but it is highly secure and uses cryptography, just like a lot of websites do, secured by certificates. And it is completely decentralized, meaning there's no central authority that is going to give you permission or not to use your money in whatever way that you wish. And that is done through consensus. So let's talk a little bit about blockchain. It's an interesting word that really creates a good bit of mystery. Blockchain technology is, simply put, a distributed ledger with two functions: read and write. You can see what is posted to the blockchain, and the blockchain can be posted too with all of those transactions that make up the next block, but it can't be changed or deleted. There is no delete function. There's no edit function. It's really the basics of computer operation, read and write. That is a bigger deal than it sounds. Because it can't be changed or deleted, this is an immutable, permanent record of your transactions, of what is going on, and it lives in a distributed ledger on what are called miners. Mining is the process of processing a transaction, confirming it, and posting it to a block. But we'll get into more of that later. Let's first continue with how blockchain works. So, more on blockchain and cryptographic hash functions. This is important to understand. Hash functions are basically, it is a mathematical function that's used to create a digital fingerprint of data. The hash is not the data itself. It's a fingerprint, a digital signature of the data itself. So these greatly increase security of data. And hash functions are used, again, in secured socket layer internet connections that we use for VPNs and other technologies, in cryptocurrency, as we're talking about now, and also in password security. So hash functions are not really anything new. They've been around for a long time. If you're familiar with digital certificates, that's really how they work. And for an example, Bitcoin uses what's called the SHA, the Secure Hashing Algorithm 256 cryptographic hash function for verifying transaction integrity. So not to get too deep in the weeds, what the properties of that are is it's collision free. There are no two input hashes can map to the same output. And it works it's unidirectional. If you take a hash output, it is impossible for you to dissect it and reverse engineer what the actual data was. The hash is a representation only, so it acts as a unique ID. Hashes were first developed by the NSA in around 2001 and are everywhere in cybersecurity. Basically, it's a 64-character hexadecimal hash, just a mix of letters and numbers that is unique to a set of data. Okay? We're not going to go too much further than that. You just need to understand that hashing is a randomizer that creates a unique digital fingerprint every time. That's critical to know. And that makes it secure. Hard to hack. So basically, digital signatures and cryptocurrency works hand in glove for integrity of the transaction. But posting a transaction, confirming it, requires a little bit of work. And actually, that's what it's called, proof of work, as far as the Bitcoin blockchain works. So consensus algorithms, basically it means agreement. Consensus is agreement. Consensus algorithms are protocols that every node, every miner in the blockchain network, in this case the Bitcoin blockchain, follow in order to reach a shared agreement about the state of the network. So miners serve a critical function, and cryptocurrency would not work really without them in its present state. So consensus algorithms prevent attackers trying to add malicious blocks to the blockchain. It just can't be done. And in a blockchain network, like on the Bitcoin blockchain, each and every block is distributed across the entire network. So if there are 10,000 miners out there waiting and watching for a transaction, each one of them has a full, complete copy of the distributed ledger. And that's how we ensure that your money is with you, that Bob's is with his, and that the transfer is recorded ad nauseum, not just on one machine, but on now thousands of machines. And that is consensus. Currently, Bitcoin uses what is called proof of work, and it creates a lot of heat, energy output. There is an enormous environmental toll to Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin mining process. And that's why we've heard in the news some things about China starting to cut back and impose regulations on the mining process, because it really does require an enormous amount of electricity to make it work. So along with that, you need the infrastructure, huge bandwidth, because all of those mining machines are listening for every transaction that comes up so that they can grab it and confirm the transaction, post it to the block, because there's a pretty big reward for doing so. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The next step is wallets. You have to have a cryptocurrency wallet to participate in the cryptocurrency world. So basically, a wallet is a software program. It just allows you to interact with the blockchain by performing operations such as sending and receiving transactions. Okay? The wallet stores your public and private keys for every user and provides digital signatures under the hood. So all of that happens behind the scenes that you don't need to pay attention to. It's just by virtue of the technological foundation. So the receiver of a transaction has to have a private key corresponding to the public key where the Bitcoins were sent. We're going to talk about this in detail with a real-world transaction in just a second. So when a Bitcoin transaction takes place, there's only transfer of ownership of the Bitcoins. It is not a transfer of an actual Bitcoin because, again, these are digital constructs. It does not exist in a real form. It exists on a digital ledger. Different concept. It's very cool. So why would we use cryptocurrency? Here are a couple of things. Security. Cryptocurrency is highly secure because miners are competing with each other to add the blocks to the blockchain, and they all keep each other honest. If there is a malicious actor, they are very shortly rooted out, and then no transactions will be coming their way. They'll be ostracized from the network and they're gone. Accessibility. There is no need for a physical infrastructure like a bank, like a standard brick and mortar institution, to provide services. That is a fantastic thing, especially for people living in rural areas that can still have satellite internet, but perhaps it's a 2, 3, or longer drive to an actual bank. Cryptocurrency provides an opportunity for economic freedom that we haven't seen before. Another facet is its reliability. Trust is ensured through using consensus algorithms. There is almost instant settlement. Transactions don't go through a clearinghouse and can be mined directly by miners around the clock. So there are no banking hours to be concerned with. Miners are running all the time, 24/7, 365, all over the planet. There are no real barriers to entry. So by that we mean that there's no central authority that is going to accept or reject users in the system for whatever reason, whatever their criteria for accepting you as a customer. There is no more of that. There is fraud reduction because the only way that you can spend, transfer, trade crypto is by using the private key of the owner. That's where the personal responsibility really is key. You are in control. You're in control of your success, and you're also in control of your failure. There's no one to point to, no one to blame. This is an adult's game. So take it seriously. So let's talk about a transaction. First, I need an exchange account on an exchange. So there are lots of different exchanges out there. You've probably heard of some of them. Coinbase is very popular. Binance is another. Exodus, CoinDCX. There are lots of different exchanges out there. Do your research. Pay attention to fee structures. Each one does charge fees. There are no free lunches. But the fees are radically reduced in comparison to a standard financial institution. One of the other components that are extremely attractive is the speed at which a transaction is posted. In a lot of cases, a bank, like a wire transfer, if I wanted to send a friend of mine some money, depending on what day of the week it is, could take several days, if not into next week. That is old school in a bad way. We can do better than that. And cryptocurrency is the way. So one of the other things that is really attractive about this is go back to the central authority. No one can tell you how or when or to whom you can spend your money. That's a big thing. Financial freedom is kind of critical to our psyche. Having freedom, having choices gives us a different outlook on life. It increases our perspective on our freedom. And truly, I believe that your attitude is set by simple things and not getting too tied up in the anxiety of all of this. And it's easy to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. But first, here's a transaction. Me and my friend Clay are going to do a transaction let's say I need to send Clay $50 worth of Bitcoin. Clay's a smart guy. He doesn't like using US dollars. He's a crypto man. So Clay bought me a concert ticket, $50, not all that great of a seat. That's okay. I need to pay him back, and we've decided that I'm going to pay him in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin. That's his preferred. Lots of reasons for that too. So I go to my exchange to establish an exchange, an account on an exchange, and I'm just going to use Coinbase. That's a very popular one. I actually use Coinbase, and I know that my friend does too. So a exchange is a financial institution. They are not a central authority, but they are a financial institution that does have some rules and regulations that they need to follow. So one of the components of setting up your account, you're going to need proof of identity. Have your driver's license, birth certificate, passport, whatever, prepared. And you need to fund your account. You can do that with a wire transfer, an ACH transfer from your bank, a credit card, or you can actually just link a bank account. Just a word of warning. Whatever you are linking to that crypto exchange, set up a special account for it. Don't have it coming directly from your savings account or your primary checking accounts. Set up a new account for your crypto. You can always dump money from one of your other accounts into that one and then transfer to an exchange, buy cryptocurrency from that mechanism. It just helps keep you organized and keeps from muddying the waters. We don't want anybody to make mistakes, and creating financial silos for your investment activity and your personal activity is usually a good idea. But we're all free beings. You do what you want. Just a thought. So you're going to need your proof of identity. You're going to need to fund your account, and then you're ready to go. So I need to send Clay some money. Clay and I agree $50 in USD, but in Bitcoin. So that is going to be a fractional fraction of a Bitcoin. Currently, they're trading Bitcoin's price, I believe, is around 33,000, give or take. So I'm going to be sending him a teeny little bit. So I go to my Coinbase account. I log on. Generally, almost every exchange, if it doesn't require it, strongly encourages the use of two-factor authentication, meaning you can enter your username and password, but then you're also sent a PIN or what's called a OTP, a one-time password, and that lets you into the system. There are other options for utilizing biometrics, and I actually use that. There are some really cool devices out there. Mine is a USB device that for a website that is identified on the system, and you can set this up very simply. It's almost idiot-proof, which is good, because I make mistakes too. But you have to actually physically depress a button on this device after you've entered your password, your username and password as well. So it's just another layer of security. I like that. I like having a tangible that I need to interact with to log into my account. So anyway, here we go. I log on, I use my biometric device, I'm confident and secure. So in my portfolio, I have several different cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, Lumens, Dogecoin, even some Shiba, you name it. Got a bunch of stuff. I want to send Clay some Bitcoin. So I go to my send options. I select my cryptocurrency, in this case, Bitcoin, and then I select my destination. And this is where it can be tricky. You cannot make mistakes. Not at this stage. Not at any stage really, but this is really important. So the destination is Clay's public address. Remember, I have a pair of keys for my cryptocurrency account, and so does Clay. We both have a private key that only we have access to individually, and we both have public keys. Our public key is really our wallet address. So I'm not afraid to share my public key. Please send me some Bitcoin. Here's something also important to keep in mind. You don't have one wallet when you have multiple cryptocurrencies. You will have a different wallet address for Ethereum than you would have for Bitcoin. They're separate. So for each cryptocurrency that you have, generally you will have a unique wallet to store the record. Again, there's no such thing as a Bitcoin or an Ether token. They are digital constructs. You can't hold them. So anyway, I select my Bitcoin to send to Clay, and I input the destination. This is tricky. So Clay's account, his public address, I don't want to type that in. It is basically a hash, so there's no way I'm typing in that many characters without making a mistake. If I make one mistake, all of those funds, and we're not talking about, earth-shattering financial transaction here, but all of those funds that I'm about to send my friend Clay would go to user X, some anonymous person, and there's no way for me to get that back. It's lost. So cryptocurrency does not lightly suffer fools. Pay attention to what you're doing, and there are multiple confirmation steps in every transaction. Don't be afraid. Be confident. Know what it is that you're clicking on, and be patient. Let the transaction, let your computer, your laptop, your phone, whatever you're using, go through its process. Don't keep clicking. Be patient. Click, wait. Something will happen. There are a lot of technologically challenged users out there that if they just take a second, take a breath, the technology will catch up to your anxiety. Anyway, let's move on. So I asked Clay to send me his public address in an email. That's a simple way for me to cut and paste it into the destination address. I don't want to type it in for the reasons I just said, and it's a simple cut and paste. Idiot proof, right? As close as we can get. So I select my amount. I've already selected the Bitcoin. I input the address. I confirm, and I click send. So, real quickly, what happens under the covers is miners all over the planet compete to solve the mathematical puzzle of confirming my transaction and posting the block. The incentive to posting a block for a miner, miners put out a lot of capital to get themselves set up, a considerable investment to have the machine, the internet pipeline, and also the infrastructure locally, be that electricity, cooling, and just the space itself to run these miners. So they are listening, and they are all trying to compete to solve my transaction, post it to the blockchain, and receive their reward. So miners, the other thing that they do, because they are all working on that consensus algorithm, as we had talked about before, they kind of keep the network secure and honest, which is required. The reward for being a miner and putting out that initial capital investment of a machine that can handle being a miner is a reward in Bitcoin. So posting a block, a miner or a pool of miners, a lot of people go in it together as a pool, but there are individual miners who will confirm a transaction, confirm a block, and are paid in close to 6.5 Bitcoin. So a little rudimentary math. 6.5 times going rate of 33,000 US dollars for a Bitcoin is an enormous proposition. So a confirmed transaction generally, a confirmed block, a block that is posted to the blockchain, is generally in the 100,000 plus area for a miner to post. That's big medicine. Attracts a lot of people to doing it. So basically, our transaction is pending for usually a couple of minutes, and that's it. While a miner takes that transaction, solves the mathematical problem, posts it to the block. The mathematical problem they're trying to solve is making sure that the math adds up for those hash functions. So hashing ties each block together. And that's one of the reasons we say blockchain can't be hacked, can't be modified, because to change one block requires a change to all blocks. That's not going to happen. It's a really interesting construct that is being utilized in healthcare, financial technologies, and security, IT. Interesting stuff. So once our transaction is confirmed, Clay is happy. He got his $50 worth of Bitcoin. He's going to send me that crappy concert ticket. And we both have the opportunity to take a look at the actual blockchain and see our transaction. Now, a lot of this is gobbledygook. If you're not technical, some of it is going to be kind of meaningless. But it's interesting information that, again, this is a foundation. So who knows where your knowledge level is going to grow to. Pros and cons of what it is that we did. So we talked a little bit about some characteristics, the privacy, those kind of things, immutability of a cryptocurrency transaction. So some of the pros and cons we'll hit are fraud protection. Cryptocurrencies can't be counterfeited because of the public key cryptographic architecture. There is no identity theft. Cryptocurrencies are pseudonymous, meaning a user's real-world identity doesn't necessarily have to be linked to your chain address. If I didn't know Clay and ask him to send me his Bitcoin public key address so I could send him some currency, I'd have no idea whose wallet that was. It's an interesting component. Almost instant settlement, as we'd said before. There are virtually no third-party approvals. Well, not virtually. There are no third-party approvals. I send money to my friend, a miner out there that wants to get paid for posting my transaction, does the work, and in minutes, it's done. There's no one to tell us that's okay, that's not okay. You can't send this guy this money for that ticket, for that good or service. It's up to us. It's a peer-to-peer financial system. That's fantastic. Fees are extremely low in comparison to a standard banking transaction. And ownership. The owner of the private key ensures that all digital assets associated with that private key are their responsibility and accessible by them, the owner of the private key, solely. You do not need custodial access provided by a bank or another financial institution. That is a really big deal. So there are a couple of different sites to get familiar with. We've already talked about exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, CoinDCX. There are lots of them. Do your own research. Look at the fees that they charge. And other services. There's more to cryptocurrency than just what we're talking about today. We'll get in later to decentralized finance and other classes of digital assets. There are plenty of them. Cryptocurrency is one. So let's just keep it with that today. Here are a couple of tools that I use, listing sites. One is coinmarketcap.com. great source. Another is Token Terminal, and another is TradingView. Those get more into the tools of really potentially deep market analysis and technical analysis. And we're going to be talking about some of those in future episodes. We want to ensure that you have a good foundation for wisely choosing a good investment, a good coin to put your faith and your funds behind. So again, fluctuations, the market is not like stocks. It is and it isn't, in a sense that there's always a pendulum swinging. Sometimes the prices rise, sometimes they lower, great peaks, low dips, and it can be nerve-wracking to a lot of people. And that's really what we want to avoid. The psychology behind investing is critical to moving forward. And here are a couple examples. One of the worst things that happens is, we all know, stocks, cryptocurrency, any investment, we want to maximize our return on our investment. So if we buy a widget for $10, we want to sell it for $11 and more, so that we have a return on our investment. We're not just wasting money. A couple of problems with how the human mind works is fear-based, and we'll talk about some of these, removing the anxiety of FUD, FOMO, HODL. These terms need to go away. Or you can still use them, but don't subscribe to the anxiety that they're trying to fill you with. So we all know buy low, sell high. A lot of people do it in the inverse. So here's what happens. When prices are high, people will have bought at a certain point. They're waiting for the dip, right? So they see the price start to drop and they buy mid-dip, because you don't know where the bottom is going to be when it's going to start peaking back up. And they do the just craziest thing. People will buy on a downward dip, but then regret their purchase because the price is continuing to drop. So they will dump that initial investment at a loss, thinking, well, I'll use that extra money that I didn't have tied up into buying more at a lower price. And some of this is actually a valid strategy called dollar cost averaging. We'll talk about that in later episodes. But that dollar cost averaging is a strategy. Panic selling when you see the price drop is not a stable strategy. That is reacting to fear and uncertainty. And we need to get rid of that. So the psychology of investing, 3 terms that I would love for you to throw away. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We all experience fear, uncertainty, and doubt in our lives. We cannot make sound, logical decisions based on a unstable emotional platform. So take a breath before you make decisions. Watch, go slow. There is another one that kind of works in hand in glove with fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and that's FOMO, the fear of missing out. I gotta buy, I see it lowering. And that's the example we just used. If any of your terms start with fear, throw them away. Our point in doing this podcast and the other associated work that we're doing in the crypto space is educational, to give our listeners a stable foundation of information, but also to talk you off the ledge. There is no good reason to make anxiety-filled decisions. If we take our time, do a proper analysis, and get to the bottom of what it is this stuff is and where we think it's going, because no one has a crystal ball, we can have a better cryptocurrency experience and see better returns. That's really what we want. A good experience and to get a good return on our investment. The next term, HODL, hold on for dear life. A lot of people, and me included, are long-term holders. So when I buy a cryptocurrency, I do a lot of research, I ensure that the project is stable, and I take the plunge. I do not intend on spending, trading, or doing anything with 99% of the crypto that I get for a period of years. I'm going to let it sit, grow up, mature, and see what happens. There are a lot of folks that do what's called scalping. They are the day traders ad nauseum who watch price fluctuations on an hourly basis and will flip, dropping prices. So there are a couple of different ways for you to go about your cryptocurrency experience. I'm not going to give any recommendation either way. For me, long-term investment is a good thing and makes sense, but I'm not doing it for dear life. I'm not holding on for dear life. I made a sound financial decision and I trust myself. So I'm going to wait and watch, but I'm not doing it out of fear. So throw away those terms: fear, uncertainty, and doubt, fear of missing out, holding on for dear life. These things are anxiety drivers. You don't need them. Get rid of it. Calm, confident, and we're going to move forward. So in our next episode, we are going to start to dissect our transaction example, get a little further on what happened behind the scenes, what the relevance of the miners are, and how they do what they do, because you might want to get into mining. We're also going to talk about an introduction to the selection criteria that we're going to use and the filters that we use to analyze different opportunities. Then we're also going to figure out the whole ball of wax on how to smartly choose coins to invest in. So the filters are a great thing, but they're not all of it. Some of this goes down to gut. That's just how it works. So that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for joining us. We are thrilled to have you, and we hope that we're going to bring you some good, relevant information so that you have a confident, secure standpoint to move forward and have a great cryptocurrency experience. So that's going to do it. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, and participate. Send your questions or comments to help@cryptosavvy.org. Check out our website at cryptosavvy.org for additional episode information, to leave us a message, and visit our store. We sincerely appreciate your support in helping us bring you this podcast. You can find the CryptoSavvy Podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout. Ask for us wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, do your own research, apply critical thinking, make smart choices, and we'll see you later.